Welcome to Northrop on the Short Porch. I'm Chris Northrop for Pinstripe Chronicles. Joining me today is Sean Barrett. He's from the UK, and I'm so excited to welcome him. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, we really love having a Marlins fan in the house. They're rare.
There aren't many of us about, no, and even fewer in the UK, that's for sure.
Well, even fewer in the seats in Marlins Stadium. But you know what? None of that matters because the Marlins and the Yankees are 5-1. So it's a new year, it's a new season, and anything can happen, especially in the next series that you and I are about to talk about. Now, the Yankees are going home. They have been on the road, as we all know, on the West Coast, which sucks. We hardly get to see anything because I fall asleep and during the game or before the end anyway. But the Yankees are going home, and I think it's going to be bombs away. They haven't hit too many home runs, and as I think it's only been like 4. So home cooking, as we say, is going to be good when the Yankees get home this weekend. Let's start out talking about the automatic balls and strikes. Sean, what is your take on that? What do you think about the ABS system?
So I'm an old head when it comes to baseball. I love the history. I love the pageantry of it. I like the idea that you've got so much history. Every single at bat, every single pitch has so many years of numbers that you can pin together and compare the different eras. So I'm always hesitant for any change. What I would say is most of the change that's happened, I've been against, and then over time become quite a fan of it. The shorter games, in particular, especially when you're talking about being in the UK and having the games going on so late, when it's 3:30 in the morning and you're in the 8th inning and you just want the game to be over so you can go to bed, and you've got the long breaks in between innings. So that's been really good for baseball, not just for us in the UK. The ABS system, I wasn't quite sure. I like the human element in all sports. I think that adds some sort of, it's not so linear. You know that you can shout at the ump because he's got it wrong. I like that it's only 2 options. You only get 2 chances to appeal, and obviously you get to keep your appeals. That's very similar to quite a few sports in the UK, in particular cricket. That when that came in, many years, baseball's a bit behind in that sense. But I like that it's only 2, so it's only limited, so you're not pausing the game too much. It's not holding up the game too much. But also, as long as you're successful, you can keep doing it. I think we saw a game of CB Buckner a couple of days ago where I think there was like 8 or 9 in a row that he'd got wrong, which is just devastating for him. You can see him really getting annoyed by it. So I think on the whole, they've soft launched it. We might see a progression of it in the future, but they've sort of soft launched it. And so far, I think it's been quite successful.
Yeah, I think that it's been successful, especially for the Yankees. I'm not sure about how it's going across baseball, but the Yankees have been very successful so far using the ABS. In the Mariners series, they were 5 for 5 in winning challenges. Now, I think that there are designated players. I mean, I think it's the pitcher, the catcher, and the batter. But I don't think every hitter or whatever has the go green light to use it. For example, Jazz Chisholm could probably be barred from using it. Whereas Judge the other day used it really successfully in the Giants game. There was a low strike and he challenged it and it was overturned. And the next pitch, he hit one out of the stadium. So, the Yankees have had some success with it. As you say, though, it's definitely something that's going to take time to perfect as the teams get used to using it. Who's using it? Are they using it, wisely? Are the players using it in good situations? Now, are the Marlins, have you noticed in their first games, have they been using it? How have they been using it?
So we've not been quite as successful as 5-5.
Yeah.
That'd be hard to do. But no, I think we're just slightly above average. So I think it's sort of like just over 50%. Most teams are getting it right, which is kind of probably where you expect that number to sort of fall out over the season.
Yeah.
Interestingly, Agustin Ramirez, the catcher, who Yankees fans will have some experience with because
Yeah.
he came in that trade, um, has had some success with it, and he's not a fantastic catcher. Let's be frank. So it's been interesting to see that his judgment of the strike zone has been successful so far. I have found it interesting. I think Jazz is one particular name that you brought out. He actually, when he was a Marlin, kind of got sort of pinched on the zone,
Yeah.
or at least
Okay.
that was sort of a lot of Marlins fans' experience, and he'd get quite frustrated by that. So I would be interested to see how he uses it, or if he is allowed to use it. I think catchers on the whole have been more successful than pitchers. I don't think pitchers should be allowed to call
Yeah.
their own challenge because, quite frankly, every pitcher thinks every pitch is a strike.
Yep.
And I think some hitters, I think it's been interesting. Some teams have talked about the idea of using it in leverage situations.
Right.
If it's the first inning and you're the first batter, there's no
Yeah.
one on base. You shouldn't really be challenging, even if you know you're more than likely going to be right, because later down in the road, it's the seventh inning, its base is loaded, and
Yeah.
you get pinched on a strike and the inning's over. That's an opportunity to score runs. So I think some teams will be looking to take advantage of using it at smart spots rather than necessarily. And
100%.
yeah,
Yeah, I agree 100% that it teams are going to learn how to use it strategically to their advantage more and more as they get used to it. I don't know if you probably are not. A lot of Yankee fans know Robert Casey. He writes a blog called Bleeding Yankee Blue. He asked the question whether the Yankees are playing better baseball or whether they're just playing better ABS ball. Now, he's already making a distinction, and I think this is one that you might be making too, of the human element and the automated, balls and strike element. Now, Casey, he's known for being a curmudgeon. He's always, tackling the tough issues and giving them. But if we extrapolate this to, to all of MLB, the question seems to be answered with a resounding yes. I think that they are playing better baseball, but whether it's ABS ball, who knows? I mean, we have a week under our belt. My gosh. So it's going to be interesting to watch it develop as you suggested. And also, as Casey points out, whether or not it actually makes a team better or whether it's just a distraction, that isn't benefiting anybody. We'll find out. But I think it's already making me a fan. I've enjoyed the successes of it. We'll see what it turns out. Let's take a look at the pitching coming in the upcoming series. Now, I know that the Yankees are going to have Will Warren on the mound, but I think that you guys have Yuri Perez coming up in game one. And I wanted to ask you if you could give us a little insight on Yuri Perez.
yeah. So I mean, he's still super young. I think he's just about to turn 23 in the season. I
Yeah.
had a year out in Tommy John surgery 2 years ago. Last year was his first year back, and actually pitched pretty well. Wouldn't say he was fully back. I think what you'll see from him is pretty much what we saw in the first start. He's got some electric stuff. The fastballs really plays up.
Yeah.
Big velocity, got a little bit of movement to it. He is unfortunately a little bit home run prone since Tommy John, the recovery. So I'm interested to see how that plays at the short porch in Yankee Stadium. That might be a bit unfortunate, but I think he's got some swing and miss in his pitch arsenal, and I think it will be really interesting to see how he lives up to that challenge. He's still a young pitcher, I think.
Yeah.
Being in Yankee Stadium against the Yankees with the lineup that they've got now as well, it will be really interesting to see how he plays in that environment,
Yeah.
because it is not an easy environment to pitch it. He is still young, but he's very confident. I think he's got that confidence of youth. He's
Yeah.
also been mentored pretty much since he came up. I think he actually got a video phone call from Sandy Alcantara when he
Okay.
came up. So they've literally been sort of like had this little brother, big brother
Right.
relationship for his whole major league career.
Oh,
Um,
that's
he's
beneficial.
Yeah, so that's been really helpful. He's an absolute giant physically, 6'8",
Oh
so
my
you
God.
will certainly notice that. Um, so yeah, he's a super exciting pitcher. He's probably going to be the heir apparent if and when Sandy does leave the Marlins. Next year is his last year under team control, and obviously
Right.
whether or not we actually get a season next year is still up for debate. So
Right.
it'll be interesting to see what the Marlins do with Sandy. If they know that next year is pretty much going to be kicked, then
Right.
do they trade him at the deadline? Do they extend him? I think
Right.
they're going to have to spend money after the CBA. I think whatever happens over that period of time, I think we will see, if not a floor introduced, an encouragement for the lower spending teams to spend more money. And
Right.
the Marlins have got a lot of players, a lot of young players that they could look to extend, but Sandy would clearly be the headliner.
Oh,
Uh,
definitely.
so I would be really interested to see how he spends this year under that spotlight of, is he going to be the next guy up? And I think this first challenge after his first quite comfortable start against the
Yeah.
Rockies, um, this might be the first hurdle for that sort of journey for him.
Right. Well, he's certainly an exciting young arm. I love watching him pitch. And it could, I mean, one of two things could happen tonight. I mean, tomorrow. It could be a pitching duel. I mean, it could be sort of a low scoring affair with Warren and Perez. But you know what? The Yankees have been away and they have been held pretty much in check as far as home runs. I'm afraid it might be bombs away for him. So we'll see what happens, but I'm predicting bombs away. I'm sorry because he's really fun to watch. I hope he doesn't get shelled. But you know, Stanton is hitting everything right now, and if I was someone coming into Yankee Stadium, and I think I'd be very afraid of Stanton, Judge, Bellinger. Well, we'll talk about this when we get to the lineups, but the way the lineup is stacked, it's a scary thing at the moment. Well, Warren's going to be pitching for the Yankees. He had an impressive spring training. He pitched Game 3 in San Francisco to a no decision, more or less, in the 3-1 win. Uh, he gave up 5 hits, 2 walks. He said he had some jitters in getting through the 4 1/3 innings. And you know, I say a 4 1/3 innings to remind us all it's still early. It's very early. So giving up a single here, or he gave up a single and an RBI to Matt Chapman. That's pretty much you know, Chapman's pretty heavy hitter. So I was glad to see that sort of action against him. He said his command was a little wonky in this start and that the Giants made him really work, fouling off pitches and drove his pitch count up. So I think Warren will be on, I think he'll be sharp. Let's hope that he doesn't get bit either by the home run ball coming home. But it's going to be a very interesting pitching matchup. Let's talk about now who's hot and who's not. For the Yankees, I was already mentioning Stanton, but when you look at the Marlins, who's just hotter than hot right now?
I mean, that's quite a simple answer for me, and that's Liam Hicks. So Liam
Okay,
Hicks was a Rule 5 pickup from the last season, and he was with the team all last season, and he played well. He played okay. He was a perfectly normal, average catcher. He started off red hot, so he's a league-leading 12 RBIs for
my
the season.
God.
If you have a look at his Baseball Savant page, it's just red all over the screen.
Wow.
He's absolutely hitting the cover off the ball. 3 home runs already, and
Don't you love that for
yes.
a Rule 5 guy?
It's a lot of there's a lot of Marlins fans at the moment. Some of them are a little bit younger, maybe saying, "Is he the greatest Rule 5 draft pick for the Marlins?" Um, a lot of people might be forgetting that Dan Ugler existed, and he was. But Liam Hicks has got a long way to go to cover that. But at the moment, he is absolutely tearing the cover off the ball. Interesting thing to me is I love my advanced stats. I know that's not normally something a lot of people are interested, but his expected batting average of 452 is
Yeah,
again league leading. So it's not that he's getting lucky. It's not that he's blooping a
right.
shot here or nubbing a ball and being safe. He is literally tearing the cover off the ball. So
Wow.
he's by far the best bat that the Marlins have had so far. You can add Owen Casey to the list. He's been red hot as well, which has been really interesting because the Marlins haven't been good at developing uh, offensive prospects for as long as I can remember.
You mean
They've
at the major league level or in
Yeah,
general?
in general,
Okay.
the draft backs have never really progressed. But the fact that Liam Hicks has grown over the offseason and talked about the work that he's put in, specifically looking at trying to increase his exit velocity, increase his strength, not just by pounding weights in the gym, but trying to use weighted backs and work on
Yeah.
his swing, so that when he actually does have a normal size bat, he's been able to get that exit velocity. So the Marlins really have, especially under sort of the last couple of years under the Bendix regime, really worked on developing not just the prospects but also the existing players. A lot of the people that they've brought in via trade, um, when they sold all through what we previously had, they've brought close to major league talent. They weren't picking up 17-year-olds at low A. They wanted guys at double A. They wanted guys with experience at double A, and they can use them to work with them and know that they're just close to being major leaguers, but they just need a bit more work. So what the Marlins have done with Hicks and hopefully now with Casey, what they did with Stowers, what we hope
Yeah.
that they can do with Norby, um, who also came in that Stowers trade. They were bringing in guys that were sort of just knocking on the door of the majors, and they're starting to sort of see some fruit from that. It's early; it's only 6 games. They did play the Reds and the Rockies, so let's maybe not get too excited. But there's a lot of energy, a lot of excitement in the Marlins fans at the moment. The Marlins typically don't get off to good starts. The 3-1 record that they had was their best record since 2014, which is
Oh my God.
crazy. They just don't get off to good records,
Right.
and the season sort of slips away. So this red hot start really has the Marlins fans having a lot of energy, a lot of excitement. I think it'll be interesting to see how the offensive success that they have had. They've had some issues with batters in runners in scoring position and actually scoring those runs, but they scored 10 in the last game. There's a lot of energy. I think bringing that into Yankee Stadium, the stadium is a little bit more hitter friendly than Lone Depot Park. Yeah, sometimes Lone Depot Park can be a bit cavernous, and you'll see high fly balls in Yankee Stadium probably would be 4 or 5 seats deep, not even
Yeah.
really making it to the warning track. So I'd be interested to see how the bats that are currently hot. I could add Xavier Edwards. Doesn't really have the pop, but he's hitting over 400 at the moment with his
Wow.
elite, yeah, with his elite second base Gold Glove caliber bat. If he can
Yeah.
hit anywhere around, he does typically hit around 320. So
Yeah.
he's a solid bat. Um, so I'm really interested to see how this hot start for the team
Yeah.
progresses at Yankee Stadium.
Now, I made a note on my sheet, and I'm not a I don't know a lot about the Marlins, but I saw this and this question: could the Marlins push to lead the majors in steals this season? And I wanted to ask you about that because the young players that you were just mentioning, Xavier Edwards and so on, these guys, when they get on base, they're running. It looks like.
Yeah, absolutely. So Xavier is good for 20, 25, maybe 30 stolen bases a year. He's now somewhat an established player for the Marlins. He's probably the first person that you would ink into the lineup in the off season, knowing that he's going to play there. Our Lopez is really interesting. I thought he was going to be one of those guys that was going to come in his first season where the Marlins stole 20 bases, and I thought he was just going to get off and running. He'd go to 25, he'd go to 30, he'd go to more. But what he actually did was bring in some power to his bat.
Okay.
So he went 15-15 last year, which for a shortstop is not bad going. He is, however, another elite. He's not just a Gold Glove at shortstop candidate. I genuinely believe he could be a Platinum Glove caliber
Wow.
player. His defense is
Yeah.
electric. The team last year, they tried to put Xavier Edwards at shortstop. They were trying an experiment. And they put Otto at second base. Didn't work.
Yeah.
He wasn't too bad there, but it was clear that Xavier is more of a second baseman than a shortstop. As soon as they swapped them around, they both played Gold Glove caliber. But
Wow.
because they didn't have that game time there, because they played a third of the season out of position, they weren't actually eligible. In fact, Javier Snoja, who is a sort of a utility infielder, maybe a little bit of the outfield, he's got a goal. The defense, I think the Marlins really have gone with a young, developing, defensive profile team with the
Yeah.
pitching, old school pitching and defense,
Right.
and try and get some offense from these guys as they develop. So I think stealing bases is again in that sort of like that realm of sort of attitude, isn't it? We want guys that got speed. We want guys that can play the defensive roles. We're going to use pitching and the pitching also with the relievers as well. This is a team that is constructed in an intelligent way. This isn't just a team of misfit parts that they just piecing
Right.
together. That's previously been the case for the Marlins. This seems like there's that the organisation has a train track that they're going to go down, and this
Yeah.
is the way that they're going to operate going forwards.
Yeah. I felt that as I was researching. I thought this is a different Marlins team than I thought I was going to be looking at. And also, from what I could tell, the relief pitching has been strong for the Marlins, been rather clutch for not just this year, but I mean, in a couple games this year, but stretching back into last season.
Yeah, absolutely. So unfortunately, I struggle with his name. Ronnie Henriquez is out for the season. He was probably going to be one of those sort of like end of the bullpen, maybe
Right.
close pitchers. That he really pitched well last year. And I thought we were looking forward to that. Obviously, that's not one of the case. They brought in Pete Fairbanks,
Right.
who Yankees fans will have some experience with his time at Tampa Bay, and I think he's sort of like the cherry on the top. But they've got such a strong, deep bullpen that guys. I think sometimes I looked at Tampa Bay over the 20 years that I followed baseball. Always looked at Tampa Bay and thought, how do they keep piecing together a bullpen of no-name guys that always seem to perform?
Yep.
And I think Bendix has brought whatever it is that they do in Tampa Bay to the
Yeah.
mark.
Yeah.
Most of their bullpen pieces are guys that were picked up for basically nothing off the scrap heap. They've all got something in common. They've got a lot of velo going. You add Anthony Bender, who's an established Marlins pitcher now. He's
Yeah.
been here for a few years. He's not getting on really for a reliever, but he's a little bit older. That velo's starting to drop down a little bit. But I'm really encouraged by the way that the Marlins can piece together a bullpen on not much money, because let's be frank, the Marlins haven't got much money to spend. Well, they have money to spend, they just don't. But the addition of Pete Fairbanks to give you an existing closer who has experience really is powerful. And the one thing that has been an advantage so far this season for the bullpen is simply that the arms are going deep.
Yeah.
Andy went 7 in his first start. Erie went 7 in his first start. Sandy went 9 yesterday.
Wow. Yeah, that's
So
right. It was a complete game, right?
a complete game. He threw a 93 or 94 pitch game. So he threw a Maddox. I was on Maddox watch from about probably the fifth inning of the first game. Actually, he probably
Right.
could have gone 9. They pulled him with 83 pitches
Yeah.
in the first game in 7 innings. So he probably could have gone 9 in the first game, let alone the second
Yeah.
game. So the bullpen had a day off yesterday because
Yeah.
Sandy went. They've got a day off today because
Yeah.
it's a day off. So they're going to come in hot and rested. And the one thing
Uh-oh.
that's really interested with the bullpen is the broadcasters multiple times mentioned that they are champing at the bit because they've not been able to get out onto the mound enough. So
Right.
they're really ready. They're ready, willing, and waiting to get
Yeah.
on the. So we'll see how that goes. Maybe they might not be so raring if they're coming in after the third or fourth inning because the Yankees
Right.
bombs away, as you put it.
Yeah. Well, what you say is a plan. I mean, you've got for example, you got Alcantara on the mound. You've got the defense now set behind him. And, you've got the relievers to come in if he need, it's the Marlins are starting to sound like a team that might do something.
Yeah, absolutely. So last year they won probably more games than most people were expecting. They made a big jump. I think it was like a 13 or 14 wins swing.
Yeah.
They were they were in playoff contention until the last series of the season, and
Okay.
this was after quite a bad sort of start to the
Yeah.
season, and they sort of got hot through the second half. I think there's been bandied around this stat at the moment that from the 18th of June, I think it is, till now, including the first 6 games of the season, the Marlins are like top 10 in win record. They're above the Dodgers, to mention one team.
Yeah.
They're actually playing really well. So I think it'd be interesting to see if they can push forwards into the season. At the
Yeah.
moment, I think the way that the league is set up with all the extra wildcard spots now, being in and around 500 through May, June, July is going to keep you within or maybe in the wildcard spots.
Yeah.
I don't think the Marlins really have much hope looking at the division, and I'm not too interested in worrying about that. I think if
Right.
they can continue to play solid baseball like they are, they're going to win enough games to be competitive. And as a Marlins fan of 20 years, competitive baseball is like winning the World Series to us.
100%. I get that. And it's funny you say that because the expectations of a Marlins fan, when you say, a competitive team, we're that's what we're fine with that. Unfortunately, in Yankee land, a competitive team gets you a fail. You know what I mean? I mean, fans are screaming if you're just competitive. So, two different worlds, but the Marlins sound like a team on the rise to me, and that could be a buzzsaw for us tomorrow. I hope not, but what are you thinking might be who do you think might be in the lineup tomorrow against Warren? Forget Warren. I wish I could say off the top of my head, is he a right-hander? I can't even think off the top of my head if he is or not. I got to look him up and find
He's a
out.
right-hander, yeah. So
A
the Marlins
right-hander. Okay, so you're
historically,
going to put in there a lineup for the right-hander.
yeah. So the Marlins historically and including this season have struggled with lefties.
Yeah.
So that's something of an advantage to the Marlins. The Marlins pretty much have quite a standard lineup. They run with the similar lineup so far anyway. The only real change has been first base. First base for the Marlins this year is kind of sort of like a mix and a match, and they're putting people that haven't really played there before. So it's a bit of a strange one, but
Right.
we'll almost certainly see Marcy in centre field. So he started every single game in centre field.
Okay.
Pretty certain he's led off in at least 4 of those games.
Okay.
Lineup kind of guy. Xavier Edwards is almost certainly going to start at second base. He's going to be another top of the sort of lineup guy. Agustin Ramirez, you're going to see him either at catch or at DH. So him and Liam Hicks, who's red hot, have sort of been mix and matching the catching and the DH spot. Otto's going to be your shortstop for certain. Owen Casey, he's kind of, I think you're probably going to have him in right. You're going to have Norby. He's sort of split between first and DH.
Okay.
It's hard to say he's struggled so far because it's only been 5 games, but this is a season that he's himself has said is a season where he needs to prove himself.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of Marlins fans are going there and further. Almost say you're playing for your major league career.
Yeah.
Griffin Conine, son of legend,
Right.
Mr. Marlin. He's going to be in either right or left. And then Graham Pauley, who I'm a big fan of. Graham Pauley is he's the kind of guy that's going to give you league average offense. He's going to be sort of like a 95 to 105 WRC plus player, but he
Yeah.
brings a fantastic third base glove. The
Okay.
Marlins historically never had power. I know third base is prototypically a power position. Marlins just never have done that. Maybe just because a power hitting third baseman costs a lot of money. So what Paulie does is he gives you fantastic defense. And this
Right.
is really important for not just for Sandy, who is a ground ball pitcher, but
Yeah.
also for the young guys that they've got in the rotation at the moment, but also the young guys that are going to be coming. Some of the
Yeah.
top prospects for the Marlins, in Snelling and White. These are stud pitchers that are going to be coming up probably sometime mid sort of late season.
Hmm.
So this team is built primarily on the defense, and like I said, you're going to get a pretty standard. The bench isn't particularly deep, so at the moment, you've got Leo Jimenez, who just come over from the Blue Jays. Um,
Uh-huh. I saw
he,
that. Yeah.
yeah, so he's a defensively first again
At
profile
first.
infielder. Javier Snowhall, I mentioned earlier. Hippoberto Hernandez actually had quite a successful season. He's going to be in left field, and then Austin Slater, the old San Francisco outfielder, on the bench. So far has shown very little. So I
Yeah.
think the team are going to stick with the lineup that they've pretty much started the season with. Like
Right.
I said, the only real changes that they've done is swap in Hicks and Agustin Ramirez, catch a DH, and then first base has sort of been a mix of everybody. But you're going to see your Marcys, your Edwards, your Ramirez, Hicks, Lopez, Cassie, Norby, Conine, and Paulie quite consistently
Yeah.
through they'll all probably get a game off over the
Right.
series, but I would expect all of them to either start 2 or 3 of those games.
Right. Now, is the first baseman injured? Is there someone injured who plays first base usually, or no?
No, not really. So
Okay, I thought maybe someone was out.
no, they just never really fix it. So they brought in Christopher Morale.
Right,
Um,
that's the person I was thinking
yeah,
of.
so he is injured, but to me he wouldn't really be the guy that you're locking into first base every single day. I
Okay.
think they tried Griffin Conine, who's prototypically a corner outfielder at first base in spring. He played okay, and I think he's got at least a start this season as well.
Yeah.
They had a young player De Los Santos
Yes, I
on the
remember
major,
that name.
and he literally played a game and then got sent down so that they could bring in the Leo Jimenez guy.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting to see. Like he's probably too young. He's probably too raw at the moment to be playing every day. He's got a lot of swing and miss, but he's got an awful lot of power. That would
Right.
He's got some real exciting power if he can make contact. Unfortunately, he does strike out 35-40% of the time. So
Right.
it's making consistent contact. Realistically, the Marlins haven't done a really good job of finding that lockdown, play every day, 150 games a season first baseman. They just
Well, look
don't.
at the Yankees, the trouble we've had same thing at first base. And since Rizzo left, I mean, it's been now Ben Rice is over there by you know, he was the he was a catcher and now he's the first baseman. So I see that, first base it is one of those positions that seems to be a merry-go-round for more than one team. Now, for the Yankees tomorrow, I think I know we're going to see Grisham. I know we're going to see Judge, Bellinger, Stanton, Rice, Chisholm, Caballero, probably McMahon and Wells, the same old lineup we usually see against. Now, what handedness is the? Oh, wait, I already know this because I looked it up to pick out my lineup. So, Yuri Perez, he must be a right hander.
He is, yeah.
He is because I picked out my right hand lineup. Now, who do you think is the most likely Marlin tomorrow to make an ABS challenge?
Well, I would say almost certainly it's going to be one of the catchers. Um,
Okay.
we haven't seen many of the offensive players. In fact, I can't actually recall one. I'm sure there must have
Okay.
been one. I was looking at the stats earlier, and I know there must have been one at least, but I
Yeah.
can't recall who it was. It's typically been the catchers that have
All
called it,
right.
and I think that is the logical way to do it. I think they're the best to judge it. I think,
Right.
especially when they're not judging it for themselves almost.
Yeah.
But sometimes if you're the pitcher or you're at bat, you're thinking, I want that to be a strike because it's my at bat. At least with
Right.
the catcher, they're doing it for somebody else.
Do you think Judge, what do you think of Judge and managing the ABS system?
I
Him
think, I
for
think,
him managing as he's
yeah,
at the plate.
I think you trust a bat like that. You obviously Judge is a fantastic talent, um, and he's an experienced player at this point now.
Right.
You'd almost call, well, you would call him a veteran, I guess. It's weird to call him a veteran. Sometimes I think
Yeah,
you
it
say,
somehow seems weird.
yeah, when you say veteran, you're talking about being over the hill. I don't think that's where he is. He's still very much sort of like at his peak then. But I think that's something that's said outside of the game, isn't it? It's not just
Yeah.
at that the pitch happens and you go, I'm going to challenge that. You've had
Right.
that discussion with the team, and
Yeah.
I don't think so much as you give players the red light to say you can't, but you certainly would be giving players the green light and saying to players like Judge, you know, if it's the right
Right.
situation or you're absolutely certain, you
Yeah.
are given carte blanche to say, I'm going to challenge that.
Right. I think few players have been, you know, caught so much by bad calls than Judge. I mean, the low ball is has been his enemy for how long. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out for him. That is, if he starts hitting. I'm just kidding. He'll hit. The Yankee fans, if a day goes by and there's not Judge doesn't hit a home run, they hit the panic button. So. Uh, I want to thank you so much for coming on with me today and talking about the Marlins. Let me know who you think is going to hit the first home run for the Marlins tomorrow,
That's a
if
really.
one does.
I'm going to pick a player who actually hasn't played particularly well this season, mainly because I want him to get off to a good start, and that's
Okay.
Jacob. I think
Okay. I'm going to root for him tomorrow.
he had a fantastic start to his career. Came up last year and was real red hot, sort of like the back end of the season when he was playing, and he gave a lot of Marlins fans a lot of sort of enthusiasm for not just him, but for the way that this team could develop offensive players going forwards. He hasn't particularly played well. He's seen a lot of pitches.
Right.
His ability to watch an at bat and see pitches has been really good. But unfortunately, I've noticed at least two, maybe even three times where he's got to a full count, worked a full count, and then seen strike three. And it frustrates me that
Yeah.
you've worked the count into a favourable situation, and then you haven't quite pulled the trigger. And I'd like
Yeah.
to see a little bit more. Patience is great, and I think patience, especially in a young player, is really encouraging to see. But I'd really like to see him have a little bit more of an offensive approach at the plate.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that Jacob Marcy hits, the fact that he leads off would make it even
Okay.
more delightful.
Oh God, if he comes in and leads off with a home run tomorrow, I don't know what I'm gonna do. But at any rate, I'm gonna predict Stanton will hit the first home run for us tomorrow. He's been hot as on fire, man. I mean, this is like a new Stanton. 3 weeks ago, he couldn't open a bag of chips, and today he's hitting them all over the place. So but it's been a blast talking with you about the Marlins. I've learned so much. And also, you're kind of making me excited about the Marlins this year. So I think that tomorrow is going to be a really interesting matchup. And I'll definitely be watching for Jacob Marzi to see whether or not your prediction comes true. But thank you for joining me today. It was a pleasure talking with you. And hopefully you make it over to the U.S. one of these days. Catch your favorite team down in Miami.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I think if they were to make, unfortunately, the last time, two times they made the playoffs, 2020, so there was no fans, and then
Yeah.
the second time they played all three of the wild card games away.
Yeah.
So they haven't actually played a home playoff game, and since the 2003 World Series,
Oh my God.
I had to at least mention it once while I was on the air with a Yankees podcast, which happened to be the very first games I saw on TV and
Yeah.
Major League Baseball, and
Oh my,
I had to wait
that's
20
incredible.
almost 20 more years for a playoff game.
Yep. That is incredible. Well, I'm not going to say that I hope the Marlins have success tomorrow, but I hope they have success over the season. So thank you again for joining me. And as always, don't forget to hit that like, subscribe button. Put comments for us. I'd love to hear your comments about any of the things we've discussed today. And as always, wear your pinstripes with pride. And thanks for joining us.